potentially giving agency to artificial intelligence.
Awesome. How's it going, Christian?
It's going great, really good actually. I've been thinking about this topic for months now, and just agency in general, like giving humans agency, giving artificial intelligence agency, and what does that mean in our human world, and what does that mean in the world of the new world of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's something I've kind of kept at arm's length for a while. I've been interested in it, reading about it, listening to stuff on podcasts. I've been doing software for 20 years, I see as a manager, so I'm well versed in it, and am you know been hearing a lot of stories about people can code with agents. They can be so much more productive. You hear about like Devin, the software engineer that's just AI. um, but it wasn't until just a couple of weeks ago that I said, you know what, and I tried GitHub Copilot, where you type a couple characters and it'll kind of autocomplete for you. Oh, okay, that's interesting. That's a nice trick. Regurgitate some of the stuff that it sees on the web. At one point, I was playing around with it, trying to do something, and eventually figured out that it was literally just outputting page, text from a tutorial that I found, which was amusing. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know how serious this is. Um, but a couple of weeks ago, I uh, just had some time in the evening, um, just by myself. My wife's off traveling. I'm like, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm just gonna try, generating something from scratch. We had a hackathon at my company, and I wasn't able to participate in it. And so I'm like, I didn't get that experience. Let me do it. And my pet project that I've worked on for years and backgrounds related to podcasting, podcast app and podcast background, and it can get pretty complex. And I never really got anywhere with it, despite putting hours and hours, weeks, months into it. So signed up for Copilot Pro, loaded up VS Code, blank folder, and I just spent 5 minutes writing out a prompt. So I want a podcast. I want a podcast backend. I want a data model that can store, it can correctly model podcasts and the episodes with it. Didn't even deal with users yet, just that. I want a back end kind of like scheduled job runner that can regularly, fetch and pull down and save the updated podcast info to the database. And I want a front end that exposes APIs for this. And again, not worrying about users, authentication. I just want to see if this can work. Um, and I was fortunate enough to choose at this time to use the Claude model rather than GPT, which we can talk about that later. And I just said, go. It's Claude 4, I think Sonnet. I have to go there. But that thing chugged for about 2 hours, kept prompting me like, hey, do you want me to do this? Can I add this or whatever? And I'll be damned if 2 hours later I didn't have something from starting from nothing. I said, do it with Python. I want to use Fast API because that's what we use. I want to use Postgres. We're just going to keep it simple. I don't even remember if I said plan to integrate with AWS or anything like that. So just use these things. And for about 2 hours, I had something that worked from nothing. And this would have taken me, in my estimation, from having familiarity with this area, having tried to do this a bunch myself, weeks. I don't know. Maybe a week of like dedicated time. I'm a um, I'm a parent, full-time employed. I don't have a lot of free time. So practically, this could have taken months for me to have done. And it generated this project for me in like 2 hours. And at that point it was like midnight. I just had to step back and look at it like, how did that just happen? It's one of those I don't believe this was possible type moments. I'll quickly analogize it to say, that formative time in college where a couple of interesting things came out in college. Napster. Holy crap, I can get any MP3 I want. Google, when you can actually find stuff, um, the iPhone, when you have this single just pane of glass, it's just right there for you. It's beautiful. Um, and to a much lesser extent, around the early 2010s, a lot of project generators came out, front end, back end. One of the first ones I remember was Rails scaffolding. That was a big thing, where you go from nothing to, it's unstyled, but you have this basic, you know, MVC app, and everything just kind of works in this basic way. It was like that, but it was orders of magnitude beyond it. I was like, that's incredible. And so I'll wrap this up with the second part of the story, which was the next day. I'm like, I, I want to try this again. Was this just a fluke? And I was asking my son, who's about 10 years old. He's really into baseball cards. And I said, do you have any ideas for me? He's like, can you create an app that tells me how much my card is worth? And I think about that and I say, uh, I don't think I can do that in a night, because it probably requires, some large data set to reference, and I'm just not sure where to go pull that in. Back in the day, it would have been, Beckett Baseball Card Monthly. You know, OG baseball card collectors will remember Beckett. Um, Now, who knows? It's, some proprietary service somewhere. But I said I don't think I can do that. But I tell you what I can do. I think what we can, because he keeps talking about, oh, this is a mint condition. This is PSA 10. Oh, this one here is only a PSA 7. It's a grading system from 1 through 10. I'm like, I wonder if we could have an AI tell us what the grade of a card is. And you can look this up. I don't have this off the top of my head, but um, cards are graded. I think this is a relatively universal grading system, 1 through 10. PSA, don't remember what that's an acronym for, but it deals with, the condition of the card, how good are the corners, is it faded? It even gets into like, how well was it printed
Yeah, the
on the card? You could
positioning
have,
in there.
yeah, is it like perfectly centered within like a 5%, um 5% margin of error? Doesn't matter how, you can open up the pack, wearing like latex gloves and all that to keep it, doesn't matter if they printed it wrong. You can't get the highest grade. So is what I do. Again, open up VS Code, write in a prompt. Again, takes 5 minutes to write up. I say, I want to create a project that allows me to apply a PSA, I want to be able to analyze a card and get a PSA grade. I want to be able to submit a picture of the front of the card, picture of the back of the card, and I want to be able to send that plus this grading rubric. And I literally went to Wikipedia. I just copied the exactly the text that was in there and use this grading grader, send it to OpenAI. I've never worked with the OpenAI API before. Said just send it to OpenAI. Didn't even specify a model. Send it there and have OpenAI grade the card based off these two images and this grading criteria. Do it in a server. Keep it simple. I didn't want the thing running for 2 hours. Um, and uh, and I didn't really know what to expect. And so again, I hit go, and there was a couple of back and forth of things. I actually think my first prompt was just let me submit 2 cards to the server, and then I came back and said, okay, now that we have these two pictures, let me submit those to OpenAI. But in net, I went from nothing in an hour and a half to having a web app running on my laptop. I was able to open it up on my phone, because you use the IP of your laptop. Take a picture of the front, take a picture of the back, and hit submit. And we started getting ratings back. Were they the most accurate? No, I think my son figured that out pretty quickly. That like, he's like, Dad, these aren't good enough. I'm like, do you realize we just put this together in an hour and a half? This is amazing. I went from nothing to like, if I really wanted to pursue it, but something that genuinely worked. I also commend OpenAI for their sign up flow. I did already have an account. It was super easy to get a token. By the way, not an advertisement for OpenAI, but it was. I made a couple requests. They said you're at your limit. Go here to sign up. I'm like, take my money. Just take it. Sure, let's go. And uh, but the thing is that it worked. I went from nothing to this functional local app. I suspect it would have taken another maybe 30 to 60 minutes to actually get it up on AWS or some hosting service. Then I'd have to worry about locking it down, at least for rate limits, so that it don't blow up a budget. The model would have to be fine-tuned or improved with prompts or something. Not my area of expertise. Sure, I could figure it out. But those are the kind of details that come after you have the prototype. I went from zero to prototype in 90 minutes. And so that's kind of my AI, using AI for software development origin story. And it's really started to open my eyes as to what is possible, not just with prototypes, not just prototyping, although that appears to be something that AI excels at, but the fact that it can do such a good job at it. Like, if you just need to write code, it will write code for you in the time, and
You think you
in the
get
last.
that last 10% or whatever percentage it is to get to from the good phase to the great phase? Do you think it's capable of it, or do you think we're just going to start edging towards that?
So it's a great question. I think it's a question of when, not if. um like we will get there at some point. Is that 2 years from now? Is it 5 years from now? Is it 10 years from now? um Pure speculation, but at the rapid pace um that LLMs and agents are advancing at, if I had to put my money, I'd say it's closer to 2 years than 10 years. And that's just the pace. We got GPT-5 coming out supposedly in August. Um, I'm looking forward to see what it can do. Um, I'll say generating code isn't everything for sure, but it is one of the limiting factors in building great software and building great software companies. And uh, as has happened so much with just the technology revolution, depending how far back you go back to the transistor, maybe start at the internet. um, the cost of doing things in so many different ways has gone you know effectively to zero. The marginal cost to serve another you know piece of software and another software user has gone to zero. Distribution has gone to zero. Now we're getting to creation. In this case, creation of code is going to zero. And what are the implications of that? So we can dive into some of that. And I'm 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 very excited for where we are right now as within our industry. Um, and I'm even more excited about where this will go in terms of just what we can build and everything that'll come out of it.
If we go back in history, and I have an article, and we talked about this last time in my last video. If you go back in history and you look at patterns as they have occurred, one of them is the car, the vehicle. You used to have
Mhm.
horses, and you'd have to walk everywhere, and then all of a sudden, this vehicle comes along that allows you to go larger distances with relative ease. Of course, boats over there and sailboats and things like that. But I'm just thinking of cars. You'd get in your car and go, "Where do you want to go?" And your mind would be so at a blank that it would be, "I don't know. I could go anywhere. How much can my tank get me there?" And you could go several towns over, not just make a day of going to the town over, but you could actually go several, or a big city and then come back all in the same day. Those were confounding concepts back then. I don't even know what to do. The world is my oyster. And
Mhm.
at some point, the world adapts. and becomes more highway driven, and the cities are closer temporally, they're not closer spatially, but the world adapted to that. And I think we're sitting on that edge of where do you want to go now that you have this agentic AI that can build anything for you. There's always that weird moment when you're in a, okay, where do you want to go? I don't know. But then you start going places and everybody gets a car and everybody wants to do these things. They want to be hot rodders to them. They want to juice them up and do different things. But then you get in later, like even now, when you go to buy a new car, you don't even open the hood anymore. That's not a thing people do anymore. But at some point, relatively recently, you open the hood and you look in there and you understand the guts and, oh, you've got this carburetor, you've got fuel injection or whatever. That whole thing, I believe, is in our future for AI, but of course magnified, and you've experienced that magnification. I do see it the same way, or is am I alone in this thought?
Well, um, so as I've thought about code being generated, um, one thing I keep coming back to is thinking about how software developers, what would it have been, 50 years ago? I'm getting off the top of my head when higher level languages, namely C, were created. But it was an evolution away from machine language, assembly language to higher level languages. Um, and one of my great intellectual regrets from college was that I decided to drop the course that would have allowed me to learn assembly and build some sort of circuit board to perform something for the purpose of learning how uh, how circuits would work, how you can put chips together, how to program them. As you hear from my rudimentary language around it, I never learned it. And I wish I had, because it seemed like an interesting thing to learn. Um, and for maybe about 5 years or so in my career, when I was developing in C++ daily, I'd have kind of this nagging feeling that I don't understand how it works under the hood. Like C++, it'll compile to assembly, but like I don't know how that works. Am I at a loss there? Am I deficient? Am I behind others? Um, and uh, I can't remember the last time I thought about needing to know assembly for my day to day. Hell, even for the stuff that I do, which is uh, building various web scale backend systems. I can't remember the last time I felt I needed to know C++, plus plus. Um, never mind assembly. Uh, some backends are written in C++. Plus plus. Hell, some front ends are. I was just reading about Figma and how the way they get such great performance is that they wrote their front, the browser front end C++ plus plus compiled with WebAssembly, and it's super fast. But I didn't need to know it, and the vast majority of people that I've worked with, you just need to know Python or Ruby or PHP or whatever you're developing in. So if you if you apply that analogy to AI and AI code generation, there's there's something there to, do you need to know any language anymore? Do you do you need to know algorithms? Do you need to know frameworks? And there's definitely some stuff that you need to know. And I haven't worked with it long enough to have a really solid uh, mental model, or really well defined list of these are the things that are now super important, and these are the things that don't matter. Um, and there will be, I'm sure, to go back to the car analogy, there will be the software equivalent of mechanics um, that know how all this stuff works. And you bring your car in and they tell you, this is $2,500 to fix. May or may not be a true story from a couple months ago. That is what it is. You hear this little whistling, and the guy says $2,500 for parts and labor. It's like, oh, what the hell? But it's like, okay, they're the experts. Sometimes you do deal with it. Um, and no, I think I trusted the deal. I think that was a real thing. But at the end of the day, uh, I was going to pay that. But
What
the
if
benefit I get from a car
what if
is
though?
significantly beyond what, the couple instances where I have to pay for it.
What happens in a world where the economy isn't $2,500? It's $25 and you get a complete replacement vehicle. I mean, that's possible that we're heading there because you experienced a very inexpensive rebuild the world. What if
Mhm.
the world becomes not $2,500 to replace a part, but it's $25 to replace the entire thing? Here's a thought I have. Let's say you have
Mhm.
that application for the card scanner thing, and you're like, okay, well, this thing isn't built super well. It's got a weird architecture. Maybe it's all synchronous and can't scale, and there's no task management or anything like that. You could say to the next LLM, take that, change its architecture around to be more scalable or put user authentication and make sure it's all this, please. And make sure you test it for all of the functionality that you capture the core functionality, but now make it this new thing. And instead of being $2,500, all it is a prompt away to create
Mhm.
this. The economy would change drastically. And the concept that I'm battling with right now is, does tech debt even exist at that point if you can rebuild the world? Because at some point, tech debt is garbage code, unused code, slow code, malperformant,
Mhm.
unreliable. And with these new
Untested.
agentic
Yeah.
systems, you can go take that, take all the tests and build it again
Mhm.
build it until it works.
Ye- Totally. One of the things that one of the earliest kind of realizations I had once it sunk in that this type of generation of code was possible now was that uh, yes, tech debt is a right target for it. Um, to the point of, hey, we have this whole legacy system. Can we use an LLM to help understand that system and rebuild it according? And look, you could um, generate a specification for what the interfaces and the inputs and outputs for the system are, and have that. You could then use that to create tests that you could leverage later, and then yeah, you can go and rebuild it one by one into a new modern language, a new modern framework, something that's performant, cost efficient, uh, you know I was about to say easier to maintain, but that gets into the what even is software maintenance
Yeah.
anymore? Like if
If
it's
it's
if
full
it's
rip up
it's
or retry,
working,
why even
yeah.
care
If
about
it's if
maintenance?
it's not broke, don't fix it. And if it's broke, you like the axiom of like you never throw away, even semi-working software, it might not apply anymore. Because you can just generate something new. Uh yeah, the implications of that are uh there's something my mind's still kind of reckoning with. Um, I want to go back to like the list. I said, hey, is there a list of things that AI is going to be good at, if they're going to things that it can't do right now? For anyone who's worked in the software industry, they have this experience where you're going to go build, a major new feature, or maybe even a 1.0 version of a feature or even a product, and it is such a grind to just to go from nothing to something that it leaves all kinds of edge cases and stuff, whether it's edge cases within the software or test coverage or how you're going to monitor it or deployment automation, just not done or partially done. um, Now, this isn't a story about, hey, now you can go from 0 to 1 without the grind, although that might be the case. But what seems clear to me is that whereas the majority of your hours developing software might go towards this like key, like critical happy path, get the core functionality in, and all the stuff off to the edges, the rest of the things that come up in the software development lifecycle, documentation, tests, monitoring, everything that go into CI/CD. Uh, that is all now sort of like, okay, I did all this. I'm so burnt out. Let me go tell my LLM. It's like, can you create test coverage for me? Now, you were just in the code and you were thinking about it and you should know how it works. You just don't have the mental energy or motivation to go write those tests. There's honestly like I know that's developers. I was a developer once. That's I understand that mindset. But if you can then like, hey, I'm building this. Now I'm going to use an LLM to fix the bugs, write the tests, write the deployment scripts, all of that. Um, all of a sudden you end up with much more complete software, much higher quality software. It's going to be a thing where it's a thing now where if you can get QA, the customer facing people, product people, heck, other developers to write the kind of bug tickets we always ask for, which is give me really clear steps to reproduce a bug, you can now just feed it to an LLM and it will go analyze the code, find out where the bug is, suggest a fix, and write the test around it. I got it out of order. Hey, write the test to verify that this is failing. Now do the fix. It'll do that for you. And so I think on one hand, you're generating a lot more code. There might be a lot of bugs, but if you have the foresight to say, actually, I'm going to leverage these to write tests, write deployment automation, infrastructure automation, how to monitor all of that. Uh, yeah, bugs, tech debt, it's all vanquishable. You don't
Can
end up with the backlogs that are years long of tickets that, oh, we'd like to get to someday, and we never do.
there's a feeling though that it shouldn't those instructions should not be in the ticket. Those instructions should not be in the project. Those should be generalized, this is how we write software at this company, or generalized how this is how you write software. The universal truths of software development is you should have mechanisms of testability and documentation and all these things. Perhaps the general rule will be that it's not about the prompt you're giving it to do the work, it's the prompt you're giving it as a system. The system level prompt should indicate these are the things that you should be doing as a well-behaved agentic AI. Perhaps
Mhm.
even to the effect of extending that agency beyond just file mutations and writing code, but to actually crafting tickets for user acceptance. Like for example, it would say, "Okay, I think I'm done writing the code. These are some areas that we probably should have a human look at. Maybe I can't test them or all circumstances." It creates a new ticket, assigns it to whoever the QA member is, and it waits for that answer. And at some point, not just being in the IDE, but it's actually a running entity of its own that's waiting for that ticket to finish, and then the human writes up, "I found this bug" or whatever, and as soon as you hit submit, it goes, "Thank you, I will go work on this." So you're migrating away from an individual developer's machine into more of a autonomous system with full agency over the code, with full agency
Mhm.
over the software development lifecycle processes. Even so much as to say, "Okay, this bug looks fixed, I'm going to release now, we're good."
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like what you're just. I mean, I don't know, you tell me if this is too reductive, um, but that basically sounds like a future where you no longer need a someone with a software engineering expertise to oversee how the agents are functioning. The agents can function in the way that, say, a product manager or a, dare I say, non-technical engineering manager talks with their engineers and sees the output of the web app or the results of whatever software has been written and says yes, good enough, or no, here's what I see. Please follow up on this. Writes out the ticket, gives it to them. Um, that's kind of what I heard there. Is that what you're?
It's
Is
it's
does that does
it's a
that map to
version
what
of
you're
that.
thinking?
It's definitely a version of that. The part that I'm thinking of is mostly. about what you had to do to get up a new project where you ended up having to have this dialogue with the AI to ultimately guide you to a certain spot. That's great for the spin up, but it's the secondary processes, like all of that
Mhm.
remaining blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making the product better. Those should be, I feel like, collaborative in a more asynchronous way rather than spinning up an AI on your local machine. It's the system, it's a mechanism. But yeah, it is going closer to less technical and more about the ultimate goals. Because like when you hop into car, let's going back to the car, you don't
Mhm.
really need to think about much more than just, do I have gas and has my oil been changed in a while and where do I need to go?
Mhm.
That's where we're at today. Back in the early days, you'd have to check every aspect of your vehicle, do a walk around, a full inspection. Did something fall off, or do I have dents, or whatever? I think we're just progressing towards more abstractions, like what you were saying with the C++ or the assembly, or needing to know the bits and bytes or the code uh, execution on the CPU. You don't need to know that anymore, and we're looking at higher and higher levels of that abstraction to the point where perhaps we don't need to know code. Maybe that's no longer necessary.
Yeah, I think like my optimistic take on this is that uh, the in a sense the skill that becomes really valued is something more akin to what I'd say being a product manager is. Like, it's my conception of a product manager, somewhere between that or CEO. I've heard product managers referred to as CEO of a product, so obviously there's a bit of overlap or alignment there. But we don't unless you're doing something just in, say, open source for the purpose of whatever purpose there is in open source. um at the end of the day, when you build software, you're trying to build something that hopefully many people will pay you money for, directly or through ads. um and so you have to understand what what are the needs of people out there, what are their pain points, what are they actually trying to accomplish. And if you're thinking in terms of, hey, I can give a grade for a card, hell, I could go release what I generated uh you know t- today, and hey, people, go use it. um but what would, if I were to release that, what would people actually want to use it for? All speculation. Have done no market research in this. Like I said, I've spent a total of an hour and a half on it. But is it something people would use for a canonical grade? Is it something that becomes more of a toy? Hey, maybe there's a market for a bunch of 10-year-old kids who want to spend, or their parents spend $5 a month just so that they can, um, have fun getting approximate grades. Maybe they just want to catalog stuff, which is something that my son has done with other apps. So uh, while the cost of producing software hasn't gone entirely to zero, but the cost of producing code has gone very close to zero. The act of generating value through software uh, still requires, at this point, um, humans. It still requires individuals thinking about a problem, being able to do outreach, talk to customers, understand all that. Um, I don't know that we have agents yet capable of doing that. More importantly, I don't know that we have agents capable of integrating into systems to get all of that necessary feedback to autonomously build a business.
Is the word,
Um,
is the operative word here, yet?
Oh, I think everything is ultimately, yeah. And when does it get there? Um, uh, when do we reach the point where artificial intelligence is able to uh, like, can you imagine giving a prompt to build me a card grading app business? Like that's it. That's the prompt. And the agent just goes and just it has enough world knowledge, experience, reasoning capabilities, etc., to go do it itself. I'll be honest, that is that's essentially inconceivable
Or
to me.
what if it
And
goes even beyond that? It says, "Hey, I'm thinking about building a card grading app. Can you do the research and do market research and provide me? I'll pay $100 to 10 people. You go out and
mhm,
find these people with whatever services necessary. Ask them if they'd pay for it, how much they'd pay for it, how I should get paid for it, and it comes back and says, I'm going to build you the tool, and then out comes a couple days later after all the things are done and says, here's what your users said we should build, and it's done.
interesting. Um, so not to get too philosophical here, but to me, where that makes me think of is when at what point is AI coming up with like true creativity, true original thought on its own? Is there some origin prompt even at the start of a the running of a program that says, hey, this this AI, your job is to figure out a sustainable business model that um, can be implemented and entirely within software and with data, and it runs on the full knowledge of the world and whatever AI has been created. And one of the things that maybe the first thing it comes up with is going to build this card grading app as an example. There's an opportunity there. This is how we're going to go about doing it. Um, uh, is like that. At some point, there's either, hey, we're giving it maybe a high level prompt, and the prompts are going to get higher and higher and higher and higher. But at some point, there's a prompt. You are here to build a business. You're here to do X. Do Y. We're talking about software, so I'm
The
focused on
prompt?
business.
What if the super prompt is something like make all human life better, like from now and into the future, and figure it out,
Um,
or make all life better, make the world a better place. Now that gets into the danger category of like
well,
Skynet, where it's like, well, humans are the problem. We got to get rid of the
yeah.
humans.
What's the science fiction
Asimov.
story? Is it iRobot or one that, yeah, where
Yeah,
there's the
Asimov
three
has
rules of
three laws.
robots, and like,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's been a while, but like the logical conclusion to that is like kill a bunch of humans so that the rest are fine or
yeah.
something like that.
The humans are the
Um
infestation causing the problem. Get rid of them. Everything's good.
yeah. I mean, what we're going down the road of here sounds like what it sounds like is the very stuff like we've heard about. There's AI, and then uh with around the time, maybe about 10-ish years ago or so, the potential to create artificial general intelligence. I know that term had been around long before it, but let's just mark it with like OpenAI getting started, and like that's kind of their founding mission. Whether that was really on the up and up, or just a slogan to get people to come, that's a separate thing. But now AGI isn't even the big thing. Now it's artificial super intelligence.
ASI.
And so there's these different levels of what can an AI do for you. And I would say one way to think about that is the less and less specific of a prompt or an input that you can give it, um, is one way to think about the advancement of AI. Um,
Let me
and,
unpack what you
and
just said. So if you give a
mhm.
vague prompt and you end up with success, that is an indicator of intelligence.
It's one
Okay.
measure. like, hey, there's a metric. A metric can be gamified. Uh, uh, you optimize. I think optimize for a specific metric is useful. We optimize metric, but also if you opting for is right. So once you start auto, yeah, the more and more complex or maybe more ambiguous of the reward or what success is. I think it could be a measure.
It feels like we're heading that direction just because now you give vague the old way of doing code, and I'm hopping back to the code for a second, was you specify every character,
Hmm.
every prompt, everything. And now we can abstract from that and we can say
Hmm.
a vague idea of what we want, and success is output in a certain way. And the more vague we become, and the more success it becomes for us, we're like, hey, I just said I want ice cream and it got me ice cream. That's very vague also, but it shows up. Like I see a day, I mean in the near future, where the vague is just like I feel sick, and it'll go figure out why I'm sick from all the data that I've, like all the past behaviors I've had, all my telemetry data, all this other stuff, and it says,
Hmm.
oh, you drank a little too much last night, or something like that. It can tell you based off of all it has accepted into its data set. And it's not just static knowledge, it's behavioral traits, it's memory, it's data, everything. And I think there's an immediacy to that coming up very soon that we have that's untapped. It's not just the code writing, it's the full looking at you as a person, looking at your environment, saying, oh, you're sick because there's too much carbon monoxide in the air or something, just like all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
We're there almost.
Yeah. Um, yeah. What you're to speak off of what you said there, I think that uh, about 10 plus years ago, Internet of Things was a big thing. Everything's going to be connected. Everything's pulling in all of this data. And despite all of the talk of big data, hey, you have all this data, you can do all this stuff with it. sh- Short of ad targeting, we didn't really do anything with it. Like we didn't really know how to reckon with it. And that's not to crap on ad targeting. It's amazing, um, amazing tech. It enables all kinds of businesses. Um, but really only essentially Google and Facebook and I guess you get Amazon and some of these other, but these major tech companies were the only ones capable of reckoning with that amount of data input. You get all this data. What do you do with it? The One of the things that I think is really exciting about LLMs is that it is it is a technology that makes it possible for any one individual to reckon with massive amounts of complexity, massive amounts of data. Um, and I see this through software. To bring it back to the software bit, um, I said this before. I said this a little bit earlier. I'll say it again. Um, I don't know if you need to actually learn programming languages anymore. I think that if you have a developer that is well versed in how to use a coding agent that maybe was brought up in the Python ecosystem and is used to building Python services, and you say, you know what, we really really need, we really need someone to help us with our job, our TypeScript front end code, or we need someone to go help us with our this Java app over here. Previously, the task switching there, not just in do you know the base languages or the base frameworks, but also do you even know the business logic? Do you even know how it works enough to reason about the system? Something that could be tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of lines of code in small to medium sized apps. Never mind more massive enterprise apps. Uh, Now you have an LLM that basically instantaneously you can use that to ask questions about how does this work? Can you find this code? How do I write this function? Can you write this for me? So with code, and in the 20 years I've been in software, it's only gotten more and more and more complex. And anytime someone new it gets hired right out of college, I'm like, I don't envy what you've just stepped into. I got to learn JavaScript and jQuery and like really basic Rails, bit by bit, and like you have to learn all of this on day one. So LLMs allow someone new to reckon with that. So if you extend that out to kind of what you were saying about being able to understand how you feel by all the telemetry coming in from devices that you wear, potentially anything else that's around you if you want it to collect that data. um, you don't need for yourself Google or Facebook infrastructure to be able to reckon with that data. There might be a model running on the equivalent of Google or Facebook or Microsoft infrastructure, but you have it available to you. And so what's going to be interesting is what are now the opportunities what are the things that were literally not possible because it takes billions of dollars of investment to reckon with massive amounts of raw data coming in. Um, what if everybody has a tool at their disposal to say, um, pick what's coming in through your environment? Maybe it's just stuff on your computer, coming in through your email. What if it's something that collects information around you? Um,
But
like you
giant
would have the
scale,
ability to do stuff with it.
isn't the giant scale of the Googles and the Facebooks and the Metas and that sort of stuff because it's collecting so many individual people data. Whereas if you just carve that off and you shard it to just you or your family or
Mhm.
your house, that's not so much data. You could get a beefy GPU in your house processing this data, and it's not going to cost you a fortune. It might cost you 100 watts a month or something like that.
Um, you could, but I don't think that this presumes that there's various telemetry collectors with the different ways to get feedback about your environment, about yourself. There's no um, I don't think there's a market for anyone to create those types of devices or anything that would go out to collect all of that information. Um, because 10 plus years ago, we went through we can collect data all over the place, and then it just sits there, and we don't have anything that we can do with it. Um, the use case might be specific to you, to what's interesting to you, what's relevant to you. Um, but creating the software to actually process all of that data, um, I think to create that you do need this capability available to everyone and everyone to want to do it. So maybe well, one, is everybody going to put a GPU in your house? No. Um, I don't think so. They'll want something managed and that's hosted. Um, so maybe we don't have everybody with individual servers in their house, but I think more of what I'm thinking is that the compute and the algorithms that Google and Facebook created were very specific and specialized for a single use case, which is targeting. It's recommendations at its core. What I think becomes, and the hypothesis here is that the only way all of that data actually became valuable is because Google and Facebook and others put so much R&D to figuring out how do I how do I reckon with this amount of data and actually turn it into something economically viable. essentially I'm saying there's one use case that came out of it. And um, I think with, as we're seeing with LLMs and ultimately with however AI progresses, um, we will be able to, there will now be a use case, excuse me, not a use case, there'll now be a ability to handle all of the long tail use cases, something that's specific to individuals. Um, and I think that's really exciting about the future of AIs.
It seems that we're circling around the almighty dollar. Like we have to find applications that get us to the point where either individually or as a corporation or otherwise, we're increasing our financial value. And unless we have that as a driving force underneath the hood, the pursuit of these different technologies it's a non-starter because there's costs with it. Like say for example, yes,
Hmm.
collect all my data around my house. It'll just sit there because nobody's found a use for it to monetize it. And at some point, maybe that dollar goes into, I don't know, healthcare or insurance, where with healthcare it allows you to make more money. With insurance, you're not spending as much. You know, different circling around the monetary aspect of things. Does that sound like why we are not finding uses for this data? Because there's no financial consideration for it.
Um, I guess so. I mean, that's one of the great motives is make a lot of money. Motivators in life is, for whatever the purpose, as a measuring stick, to to provide for yourself, your family, those around you. Um, I think I would say money is the most common motivator. And while you will, get altruistic contributions that mm, can provide immense value to society, um, most of the time that's going to be motivated by money. And so yeah, I do think that's a reasonable lens to look through.
It's unfortunate because I think there's a lot of applications out there that would be fantastic for humans and animals and all living creatures if money was not a factor in there. If we could take those billions, if not trillions, of dollars that have already been earned that will never be spent by these large conglomerates or individuals for that matter, diverted towards these other things that could ultimately guide humankind or the planet to a better position by removing
Mhm.
that financial aspect. Now, I think I'm talking Star Trekky at this point, where there's no money and everybody does everything based off the merits of what they want or whatever the rule set there is. But do you think maybe one of those times that we ask the big question of, hey, AI, make the world a better place, and one of them would be the answer might say, get rid of money?
Um, well, let's see. I think uh, not to turn this into an economics uh, podcast, but or conversation, I guess. Uh, I I think capitalism is good. I think yeah, I think that having the ability to make money is ultimately good. It's the um, I love the idea of thinking of capitalism as like the ultimate greedy algorithm. Everybody optimizing for themselves. Now there's limits to that for sure. Uh, we're not all if you're not living on a sort of like on a ranch where there's no one around you, if you start butting up against others, you have to consider it's when you start considering the greater good rather than just purely selfishly for yourself. um you know I think that by no means is it a guarantee. I I'll take a quick tangent. Like I would love to be able to look 10, 20, maybe 30 years into the future and see what actually comes of the Giving Pledge. I think that's the one that Warren
Wait,
Buffett
what?
started.
What was
I think it's called this, the Giving Pledge. Forgive me if I have the wrong name for it, but Warren Buffett promised to donate, whatever, 90, 95, 98, something like that percent of his net worth to charity on his death. And Bill Gates, I believe, along with him, a number of other people have participated in it as well. Where's that money going to go? Um, and does it actually end up going to good? In where I grew up in Seattle, where I am today, there's a bunch of old libraries here. There's 100+ year old library, or at least the structures originally, and they came from, I believe, is from Dale Carnegie.
sounds
Um,
right?
I'm not sure if I got the right. It came from Carnegie. Um, Uh, I think I got the first name wrong. I think he might be the one who wrote the book, The Rich Carnegie, the Carnegie Mellon Carnegie,
Yeah.
that guy. Um, uh, not just how to win friends and influence people. Um, but no, there's Rockefellers, the Morgan, Carnegie. They made a ton of money and a lot, and look, they did some awful things to their workers, and there's also a lot of money that got donated to stuff. And libraries around here are just one such thing. Um, do all those rich people actually do good things, like greater good things for the world? Um, if not, I will take the optimistic take that I think software is a tool. It's ultimately an enabler. It can be an enabler to do things. It can be an enabler to make money. Um, but if it becomes easier and easier to put together software, uh, and that makes it so it doesn't require vast amounts of money to do. I'll share. I was talking with a friend just the other day, and she wants to start a nonprofit, um, and she's going to get started. It's one that your entry into it is taking, um, going through this like Myers-Briggs style survey, to help understand you, and lead you into such and such an outcome. Being intentionally vague here. But I was talking to her about it, and she's like, yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to get this built. And she didn't say this explicitly, but it's like, well, I could go pay tens of thousands of dollars to get a contractor to build it for me, or someone could volunteer their time to do it. And I said, look, and I'm listening to her talk through it. I'm like, look, it sounds like you have basically the first version of this survey. You have enough to write up a spec, to write up essentially a product requirements document. Take a pass at it, write it up as specific as you can, and then I'm telling you, go download VS Code for free. Go sign up for GitHub. Go sign up for the GitHub Pro, Copilot Pro trial. Not an advertisement for it. This is just what I've used. Pro trial free for 30 days. Use the Claude model that's available there. I think Claude 4. Again, just saying this is just what I use. This is my experience, and give it a try and just see what you can do. And uh, I, you know, I don't know if she'll be able to get all the way to something is deployed and she can actually, uh, get responses from it, kind of get things going. But I think she can actually get pretty close. And so she's trying to make the world a better place in some small fraction, but like this is her entry into it. And this is the modern day equivalent of, man, I want to get started with writing software, but the first thing I have to do is go buy tens of thousands of dollars worth of server equipment, and I have to know how to hook it up in some server farm somewhere, and only then at that point can I even consider doing anything with software. Now it's like, well, I can get a free tier on AWS, no problem, but I got to figure out how to write this really complex thing, and all I want to do is do this one little thing that I think will help make the world a better place. Well, there's the potential that now it's her doing this plus maybe, an hour or two, and she's not a software developer, but there's plenty of software developer friends, have one or two of them like volunteer an hour on the evening to help her get over that hump, and she could have that up. So I think democratizing is an overused term, but I think it's very applicable here. And if we get to the point, which we're very close to right now, where anybody who has an idea, like this is what I want, and they can think through it clearly, like what they actually want, and can write it out and specify it, you no longer need, never mind what it would take to host it, the amount of years it would take to learn how to write software, or the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to get someone to write it. You can just spend maybe hundreds of dollars for an AI to write it for you.
What if you had
And
like a
that
service?
times millions makes the world a better
What
place.
if you had like, I'm just spitballing here, but like a page that you go to and you paste in this very descriptive PRD or document, whatever you want, and you say, I have this domain. Please make this on this domain. And a few hours later, your thing shows up.
I mean, I think
On
we're
that
pretty
domain.
close to that. I
And
haven't I
you
haven't
literally just
literally.
click a button, pay $100, and your thing is done.
It's right. Let's get an AI to build that for us. That sounds like a business, Christian.
And the further tweaks, the way you would do that is you would probably do something to the effect of like in app, you would have a specific login that says, "Hey, I'm the owner of it" or whatever, and say highlight this area or drag an area around it and say this area needs to be purple or please make this look better. The same way you go into OpenAI Canvas and you highlight areas and say please rewrite this, you would do that for in the app. You
Hmm.
would probably do it for like not just the web app, but also for the Android and the iOS, and you just guide it with your new features, or even to the extent of having a section that says create new feature, describe new feature.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely can see software being built like that sooner than later.
I would bet you somebody's doing it already.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, as someone who's employed in the software industry, maybe we can tie a bow on it here. Um, uh, I think you really have to be thinking about where it's clear things are going to go. What the logical conclusion. Maybe just think a year or two ahead. Um, but if you're in the software industry, particularly if you're a software developer, and you're not trying this stuff out, if not just to be productive, but also to anticipate where the direction that our industry is going to go, and what skills become valuable, which assumptions about what is possible, what shouldn't be attempted are getting broken. Um, I think you're really going to be left behind.
So let's wrap up with a final question. I'd like to hear your answer.
It's
But a final question for you is, what would you tell a junior developer coming straight out of school, college, or whatever, entering the job market? Maybe they're not ready for it yet. Maybe they're about to be ready for it yet. But what would you need them? What do you expect them to know in this new world?
well, I'll give you the best answer that I have, which is something I'm definitely still working through and trying to figure out. Um, One is understand business and how business works. Assuming that, hey, I like software, I want to be a part of building software. What do I do? Um, I think it's important to understand business, how business works, how to run a business, because you might be running a business by yourself as a solo developer. So that's one. Two, like a close follow is it maybe kind of say this, uh, product management, uh, product discovery, product development, and then the the real question, the technical question I have is like how would you go in the world of AI agents and everything that you can do with them? How do you go from being what I would consider to be a junior developer, someone with a couple of years of experience, could be incredibly bright, but just doesn't have that much experience, hasn't written that much code, hasn't seen that many things, to um, people with our level of experience, which relative to agents was gained the hard way. You know, how many bugs have we debugged that have taken days, maybe a week to figure out? How many different failure modes have we seen? Our ability to pattern match and be able to see a signal and immediately say, this is what I think this is. Whereas a junior developer might flail all around and take days to figure it out. My best guess at this point is some version of um, I'm going to say best practices, and I'll really quickly caveat it with I think there's some best practices that aren't going to matter anymore, like writing really clean, readable code. I don't know that that matters. Hell, writing reusable code. I don't even know if that matters. Um, uh, but things around architecture, we haven't really, we talked a little bit about data, but I think that whereas we can generate all kinds of software, I think there's still friction, still, non-zero costs dealing with data protections, um, efficiently working with data. I think there's value there. Um, and then maybe the last, so architecture, good practices, all that. And then the last thing that I would say is find a good senior engineer mentor, uh, because uh, that person will probably bring you along uh, way more quickly than any book will. Frankly, that is true even before AIs came out. But I think it's just as important now because that senior developer will be able to look back at their career and say, well, this 80% of what I learned, that doesn't matter anymore. But this 20%, it really does. I don't know if it's 80/20 or whatever, but they're like, this matters now, this doesn't. And they can really help you figure out that. I don't think I would advise a junior engineer anymore to just go and try and write code, which is crazy to say, but I I don't think that is going. I'm not gonna say that's not useful. I don't think it's anywhere close to the most efficient way to get to a point where you can build software. Build
I
software.
know that
I
was.
stole this from Steve Yegi.
I said that was my
Build
last.
software, don't code.
I said that was my last question, but I do actually have one tiny question.
Sure.
What would be the name of the person or the role if it's not engineer anymore? If they're not writing code, does that mean they're no longer an engineer?
I mean, were we ever engineers? Engineers implies that you have a well-defined way of going about doing some very repeatable process. And the fact that we poo-poo waterfall, where you design everything up front and emphasize an agile process, I think is a pretty big hint that we were never engineers. We just like to call ourselves engineers. Um, I think software developer is just fine. Uh, the software builder, I don't know. I think that's it. You're product builder. uh, that's what we're doing. We're building software. We're building working software for people to use. Just not really going to be coding anymore. Not like certainly not like we used to. That might be an output under the hood, but less and less are we going to be confronted with actual code that we that we have to modify
Fun fact:
ourselves.
in Canada, it's not legal for you to actually claim yourself as an engineer unless you've actually gone through a true engineering course. You actually have to call yourself a software developer because engineering as an umbrella term has impact on human life, and you have to be trained with all of these worst case scenarios. And in fact, I think it's that you can have a lawsuit drawn against you. I think it's up to $10,000 of of it could be up to $10,000 against you if you make these claims and are caught.
Hmm. Well, hey, I'm aligned with that. We're much closer to artisans than engineers in,
Agree.
and I say that in a good way. I think I love the creative process that every engineer, excuse me, every software developer goes through in creating the final output. Uh, so
Well,
interesting fact.
thank you for your time. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, this was great, Christian. Thanks for inviting me.
I'll stop recording now. Thank you.